Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Fanzone Debate. We are here for a very exciting match. We got the return of Adelaide Spence and the return of Chadwick Webb. Both good players that I think have done well so far, but haven't really found that big success. Chadwick at 0-2 has played really well in his two matches, but just hasn't been able to eke out that win yet. And on the other side of things, we have Spence, who's been around a little longer than Chadwick, has gotten one win, but is down to a few more losses than wins. And so I know they're really looking for a win. I know Chadwick wants a win. I think they're both really great at this, but it's all going to come down to the arguments tonight. And I got two great judges here with me. We got Brian and Mark. Brian, we'll start with you. How you doing, my friend? And what do you think of this matchup?
I am doing very well. Glad to be here. This will be a fun matchup. I do like when you get people that's not just kind of the same people. You know, you're not just watching the winners all fight each other. This is kind of that, that lower tier where, like you said, they're good debaters, but, put them up against each other. One of them's going to finally kind of take the next step, get another win on their record, and see where they go from there.
Absolutely. And Mark, you are here. How are you doing, my friend? And what do you think of the matchup?
Oh, yeah, I'm doing all right. I mean, I'm honestly not sure if I've ever judged either of these two before. I'm sure I think I maybe judged Spence once. I honestly can't remember. But what's kind of grinding my gears is that I was out before, doing some work in my car wash. And then originally I was supposed to get home 15 minutes before this match, and then Tim was like, "Hey, why don't we start early?" And I was like, "God damn it, I didn't get to eat. I can never eat in peace in my own house."
You can eat during this. You're off screen for a lot of the time.
I don't want to tell people that, Tim.
All right, that's fair. I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Okay, so we are going to talk to the players real quick before we get into it. We're going to start by talking to Chadwick. Chadwick, welcome back. I've been wanting to get you back in. You're now here. You're going up against Spence. Thoughts on going up against Adelaide tonight?
I watched their matches. They are really good. I think the record doesn't really match their talent. I think also mine doesn't match my talent sometimes. But I'm also dad tired, so I'm hoping Spence will go easy on me, but we'll see.
I understand the sentiment. We will bring in Spence. Adelaide, welcome back to the debate ring. It's been a while, but you're here. That's what I was going to ask Mark. Mark, you were here for Jackie Robinson, right?
I was going to say.
Oh, no.
You missed that? Oh, okay.
I believe I did.
I think that was
his
last match, right?
But I was not here to actually judge the question.
Brian definitely was. I know that.
I remember that, yes.
Okay, so Spence, welcome back. Jackie Robinson, any picks like that tonight?
We are never doing that shit again. Hopefully, I want to avoid that drama. I think most of my matches have very interesting moments. We will see if I do any weird shit today. Hopefully not.
Was that last season?
Yeah, it was that, and the match before I had the Robert Downey Jr. stuff, and then I had the Star Wars thing with Jacob E. West. I need to stop being interesting in Fanzone.
It doesn't feel like it was that long ago, but wow, it really was.
It's 2 houses ago.
That's
3
crazy.
houses ago.
Well, let's get into it. This is how it's going to work. So the players drafted categories, and then we gave them questions based on the categories. They're going to debate them tonight before our very souls. So how it's going to work, they're each going to get 1 minute to open, followed by a 5-minute freeform, followed by a 1-minute closing. At the end of the debate, Mark, Brian, and I will write on our handy-dandy boards who we thought won. Who we thought won the debate. And whoever gets 2 votes, you get the point. Whoever gets 3 points wins the match. I looked for it this time, Mark, and it happened. And any questions from the players? Okay, let's get into it. All right, we are going to kick this off with your first question, which was drafted by Spence in the category of musicals. Your question is, Which 21st century musical has the best cast? Spence, you're going to kick this off. We are going to give you 1 minute when you start talking. I will come in to give you a 10-second warning when the time comes.
When you're in a musical, there's a lot of expectations for you to be counted as good or the best. Out of just being a generally good actor, which you need to have just in any movie, you need to be able to sing and you need to be able to dance. And the cast of In the Heights has that in spades. It's one of the best choreographed musicals of all time in terms of dense cast and how talented everyone is. Beyond just like, oh yeah, they're pretty good. Anthony Ramos, Corey Hawkins, Leslie Grace Musselburgh. I know Cody hates this. But if you go down the cast, even Olga Meredith, people who we don't really know as like these celebrity actors, small bits but from like Jimmy Smith or Stephanie Beatriz, this is a densely strong and stacked cast who have every single part of the performance down to an inch. Lin-Manuel Miranda crafts these really dense musicals where it is expected to be hitting these really difficult musical times and time signatures that are hard for most actors to do. He handpicked Anthony Ramos because he knows that he can handle that kind of rhythm. And the entire cast takes this incredibly difficult show and does it effortlessly.
Time. Okay. We are going to move over to Chadwick. Chadwick, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
Chicago's cast led to a Best Picture win and 4 Academy Award nominations for acting. While some of the cast had theater backgrounds, it was mostly an acting-first cast. So when they all could sing, dance, and do drama extremely well, it was surprising, which is a credit to the casting director. The cast stands out due to the versatility. The actors needed to embody their real-world characters as well as their heightened musical counterparts. Most of them are vying for the spotlight, so the way they all play off each other with tension has them both complement and elevate each other. The cast are now iconic in their roles, cranking out hits like All That Jazz and Razzle Dazzle. I Can't Do It Alone shows Catherine Zeta-Jones doing both parts in a double act. Renee Zellweger gives me goosebumps during Roxy. John C. Reilly breaks my heart in Mr. Cellophane. Queen Latifah channels Sophie Tucker in When You're Good to Mama. Richard Gere nails We Both Reach for the Gun and has tap dance. Cell Block Tango is one of the best numbers of all time with performers at the top of their game. With this cast, Chicago ushered in a musical resurgence, even if they were all pale imitators.
Okay. Chicago versus In the Heights. 5-minute freeform. When one of you starts talking, I will come in to give you the 1 second warning, or the 10-second warning. Jesus. And I will throw up a 1 minute warning is what I was going to say. And also, I've got to say it. It has to be said. If you're talking too much, if you're being obnoxious, and you're not letting someone talk, I'm going to throw up to let your opponent talk. Don't make me do it, okay? I will send Nick Twohig to your house. People apparently are taking that as a good thing. No, he will destroy you. 5-minute freeform and one of you starts talking. Nick also doesn't realize that I say that at every match.
Acting first is a really interesting way to open the argument because the biggest thing to take against Chicago and what a majority of human beings alive today hold against it is the cast is not musically talented. Renee Zellweger is aggressively nasally and ruins such brilliant performances that we hear from Broadway. She undermines a lot of the songs. She is not a talented singer. That is against her. Richard Gere's dancing is so bad. Rob Marshall, the editing style of the movie that makes it disjointed and hard to follow, is reverse engineered around Richard Gere's bad dancing. He's such a fundamentally bad tap dancer. This is a quote from Rob Marshall himself. He edited around. He had to hide how bad of a performer Richard Gere was. In the Heights has no flaws in his cast like that.
Okay. In the Heights has incredible, flaws against it. One being that actually Washington Heights has a big problem with the cast. When you bring up the issue of colorism, that is a big, thing against it, where they handpicked, like you said, Lin-Manuel was handpicking a lot of these actors to be in the movie. But what they didn't do is represent the community that they were actually trying to lift up with the Hispanic heritage culture. That's what the entire movie's about. And what they did was they didn't cast any Afro-Latino actors in the lead speaking roles. So basically, they're doing erasure in that way, which is wrong. And Lin-Manuel has since apologized for the cast. And I'm not here to say that In the Heights isn't a good movie. I do think it is a good movie. I think the cast is not bad, but they're just, when you have like such an issue with the cast like that, I don't think there's really any coming back from it. And I think it's going to make the movie harder to return to after that.
I think best cast doesn't have to specify number one, loyalty to the material, but I think that you're fundamentally misunderstanding what
not loyalty to the sorry.
Number one, Lin-Manuel Miranda himself, who originated the role of Usnavi, is not a Afro-Latino. That is not who he is. I think that you're misreading the purpose of the story. The place of race within the story itself lies namely in the character of Benny. What is cut from the movie is a narrative issue, and that is not part of the cast. There is a big race subplot with him that is removed from the story. That is the issue raised that is not with the cast. But I stand by. Go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
No, that's okay. I went on along. When you talk about Benny's African-American, so that has nothing to do with the idea of erasing like the Latino Afro-Latino voice. And this was actually a big deal when this movie came out. Not a lot of people went to see the movie. Like it didn't really have that big of a draw, to be honest. It was a box office bomb because people didn't really care about that cast. So, like it wasn't that big of a draw. But like when you have them come in and you have like people like Rita Moreno and Melissa Barrera also trying to defend the movie against critics who say, hey, this is actually not cool to, silence voices that should be heard because you're not representing the community how it should be. But I quickly want to go back on a lot of these people that you're commenting on saying that they were ruining the material of Chicago helped elevate it to a Best Picture, and they got acting nominations for this. You talk about Richard Gere being not good. I don't know about the edit. The editing's fantastic, so I don't think that's really a knock against the movie. But the performance is fantastic. I'm not. And if you look at Richard Gere's like history,
let Spence talk, Chadwick.
Sorry.
When did Oscars matter? Like, I think that none of us have ever said that the Oscars are truly representative of the greatest movies or the greatest year for movies. Everything going on. We're in a world where fucking Green Book won Best Picture, where Crash won Best Picture 3 years after this. The Oscars do not matter. Critics liking something is likely due to marketing. This is a fucking Weinstein production. He was up the Academy's ass. I don't think that the campaigning of a film undermines the cast of it. Richard Gere is fundamentally bad. Queen Latifah is not giving a full musical performance. She stands there very, very, very stoically and is not dancing. This is a dance-forward show. I think I will give you Catherine Zeta-Jones. She won her Oscar, and that is fine. But I'm saying I think around her, everyone around her is not giving the levels of dense brilliance that In the Heights does with every single one of its performers.
You have like I laid out. You have incredible acting in Chicago. Every time Renee Zellweger's on stage, she gives me goosebumps. When you have Queen Latifah, you could talk about. You don't have to dance for it to be a great musical number. John C. Reilly was basically okay.
Time. All right. Well, Chadwick, we're gonna start with you for closing, so you can just keep going. But 1 minute when you start talking for your close.
Like I said, with In the Heights has this big issue of colorism that I don't think you can come back from. It's going to hurt the rewatchability of the movie that people, when you actually look at it and you see the big glaring, erasure of these people that represent this community and make it beautiful, it's very noticeable. And then you go, ooh. And then Anthony Ramos is also kind of a douchebag, so that like really, takes away from it as well. And I think the lead performers don't have much chemistry. So really, when you talk about like acting first, yeah, you really need these performers to be good in acting as well as dancing and singing. Richard Gere actually brings so much unique vibes to this role that when he comes on screen, he lights it up. He learned to tap dance for this role, but he actually has a big musical background as well. And, he lights up the screen. I love him when he does razzle dazzle, when he tap dances around the question, around the lawyer stuff. You said Catherine Zeta-Jones was the all-time performers of all time, and John C. Reilly will break your heart every time.
We said time at the same time, Chadwick. 1 minute, Spence, when you start.
Oscars don't fucking matter. Kaleb Koho's not here. Let's ignore them. I think if we're sitting down and saying, if we're going bar for bar, who is the most talented performer? I think Anthony Ramos as the lead is better than Renee Zellweger. I think that if we're looking at major male actors who are playing supporting roles, Corey Hawkins is infinitely better than Richard Gere. And again, I think that Queen Latifah isn't giving everything you want from a musical. I think Lucy Liu is underutilized. Christine Baranski, who is a fully talented and trained Broadway performer, has basically one scene, one song, and it's not even a full song. I think it fundamentally misunderstands what you want to see from a musical. The issue with 2000s and most 21st century musicals is they are hiring actors and teaching them to sing. That is the issue with Richard Gere. That is the issue with basically everyone below him on the cast list besides Catherine Zeta-Jones, who is phenomenal. In the Heights, they're hiring talented performers who have experience singing and dancing on Broadway and in film. Everyone there is phenomenal. Even the regular actors who they have who are not trained in singing, Corey Hawkins and Melissa Barrera, are talented. Everyone there is fucking fantastic.
Time. Okay. I'm gonna bring in you. I'm gonna bring in you. I'm gonna bring in you. I'm gonna bring in you.
What the hell?
That didn't go how I thought it was going to.
All right. I'm ready. Are you guys? Interesting. No offense to Mark, but I'm gonna move Brian there because that's how I do it. I don't know. There was a lot thrown out here. I went with Spence. I think that Chadwick made a bold move. Because I totally forgot about the whole I don't know how you want to put it.
Controversy
Stuff with the cast in the Heights. I totally forgot about all that, but he addressed it. I think it's a valid point to bring up. But that was kind of mostly it. He criticized the cast in the sense of they shouldn't have been cast. Spence took it as they were cast and what did they do with it? And I thought that Spence convinced me that whether or not the In the Heights cast should have been there, they were musically talented. They were good actors. They could do the music, the singing, the dancing, and the acting. And he was able to convince me that while Richard Gere, Catherine Zeta-Jones, and Queen Latifah, all these people might be good actors, but they were just brought in, trained to sing, and it doesn't work as well and doesn't do that movie the justice it needs. So I went with Spence. Brian, where are you going?
I also went Spence. I think that's like you said, Tim. I think that bringing up the whole controversy about In the Heights casting is a valid point to bring up for one point, but we got mired in that for way too long. I think it took out a lot of time that he probably could have supported his film more, but that time was taken up by that whole argument. But really, I think came down to Spence. Even just early on, they were saying how the acting ability is one thing, but they're musically untalented in Chicago, or the fact they weren't as talented. And even Chadwick in his closing said, yes, you need to be a good actor as well as good musically, which kind of was supporting Spence's point, I thought, when he said that. Because yes, his people were talented actors, but never got back to saying why they're good musically. And in a musical, I think that's an important part of the cast.
Okay. Mark, your vote doesn't count. Where would you have gone and why?
Yeah, it's clean sweep. Spence. For a lot of what you guys brought up, I think even in the case, when the Oscars were brought up, I think Spence was very smartly just kind of brushed it aside and well, Oscars don't fucking matter, and brought up a bunch of unpopular Oscar winners and I just kind of like how the argument was structured, of how in a musical you do kind of expect your actors to be able to sing and dance, and that is a part of the performance, and it kind of helps out the strength of the cast.
All right. Mark, you drinking a Gatorade? I was having a Gatorade earlier. Amazing. Nick thought I was weird for drinking Gatorade. Okay, Spence wins the point. So we're moving on to the second question, which was drafted by Chadwick. It is in the category of horror icons. Your question is, which horror icons film has the best final girl? All right, Chadwick, you get to open this one. You got 1 minute when you start talking.
I picked the quintessential final girl from John Carpenter's classic masterpiece, Halloween, Laurie Strode. There were final girls before Laurie, but she set the standard. Every trait that's attributed to the final girl trope can be traced back to her. Wes Craven created both A Nightmare on Elm Street and Scream, but when Scream analyzes the final girl trope, it also looks back to Halloween and Laurie Strode, even playing scenes from the movie. Craven's own characters, Nancy and Sydney, owe a lot to Laurie Strode. Laurie represents the purity and safety of suburban society. She's innocent and trusting, but when evil comes home to Haddonfield, she's the only resident who seems aware and observant of the signs that something is lurking and watching. She's smart, but a sheltered society has not prepared her for what's to come. Evil is everywhere, and if you allow yourself to be distracted by carnal desires, it may get you. After her friends are dead, Laurie rises above to not only save herself, but to save those she vowed to protect. She's so scared, but she still subdues the villain. Final girls after Laurie follow her lead, not the other way around.
All right. We are going to move over to Spence. Spence, you have 1 minute to open your argument when you start talking.
Nancy Thompson, the star or the lead character of A Nightmare on Elm Street, the original. Fuck the remake. I think the reason that she is such a well-written and well-developed character is because she's analyzed from a screenwriting perspective, not from a horror perspective. It's how does she react to the film around her? She is proactive and she is thoughtful. Throughout the whole film, you see this build-up before she even meets Freddy of analyzing every situation and saying, what's the smart decision? Even though she's surrounded by people who are sinning with carnal desires, she's having a logical perspective and thinks through every scenario before doing it. And that's why she is solely the only person who is good enough to go against Freddy. Everything that he does in his way of killing these kids, she knows it, she analyzes it, and she manipulates it against him. She is smart and is truthfully, in the film, the only person who is able to defeat Freddy. Laurie isn't even the person to kill Michael. She's a failure. Nancy succeeds.
All right. I think we got the two picks here. Guys, 5 minute freeform when one of you starts talking.
You talk about Nancy succeeding, but the end sequence that shows everybody alive kind of shows that maybe she didn't actually succeed. And the way that she succeeds is turning her back on Freddy just so he can disappear. And she does this whole sequence of doing these booby traps for Freddy to comically fall downstairs. And then you're like, why did that even matter? Why did she waste all that time? She promised to save her mother, and then her mother dies because she wasted all that time building a series of booby traps. If she would have listened to Glenn earlier, she could have actually saved a lot of time. She could have saved her mother. And that's her big problem in this movie, is listening. She doesn't listen to Glenn. She doesn't listen to her mother when she's sitting there in the bathtub about to drown. And her mother's like, hey, maybe don't fall asleep in the tub. And then she's like, fuck you, Mom. And then she's just kind of an asshole to her mom in that moment. So all the things you're saying about Nancy, she's actually not that smart. She's actually not that, caring or listening or, patient. And yeah.
I think not listening to Glenn is weird because the dude fucking dies. And he literally, she leaned on him earlier. And one of the preparedness things that I think that she leans on is in the first time where she tries to fight Freddy while also understanding that she can't win against him, is she falls asleep and tells Glenn, hey, be on standby, wake me up in 15 minutes or whatever. He falls asleep. He is unreliable. And what does she do? She sets an alarm clock because she knows better, because she is the smartest person in every fucking room that she's in. And it's worthy to mention that she turns her back on Freddy to kill him. Laurie turns her back on Michael, the man who she stabbed in the neck with a fucking knitting needle. And it's like, you know what? He came back. I'm going to turn my back on him. And she leaves the fucking knife on the ground. She is stupid. She is ill-prepared. She does not know what she is doing. She actively puts herself in harm's way. And I'll just say one more thing. Yeah. What, she can't turn her back on Michael and say, oh no, I can't know what to do. And then Loomis comes in. She's barely even a fucking final girl. She does not save herself. She relies on a fucking man to come in and do the saving for her. She barely qualifies in this argument.
Okay, she basically created the final girl trope, but we'll go after that. But if you look at it, yeah, she does, have her back turned towards Michael because she's trying, because she thought that she won. She is ill prepared, but that's what makes her so great. Is because she has to act in the moment. She has to be, so resourceful, trying to find anything she can to stab Michael or to stop him. She doesn't have time to do anything or really think. But because she's so smart already, she's one of the smartest characters like ever. She can actually figure out how to stop him in the moment because she doesn't have time to think. Like when he actually comes and picks her up, she takes off his mask. And that distracts him enough for Loomis to show up and help her. And Lori has. That's very smart. And it has, shows that Lori has a support system. She has kids that she has to protect, and she does that. She does all of that. Nancy doesn't protect anyone but herself. She can't even save Rod. When she goes to the police station, she's like, please let me go back and see Rod. Instead of just being forceful and saying, take me back there right now, or just running back, and she could have saved Rod's life.
You can't be forceful in a police station. You're going to get fucking shot. She needs to be.
That's
she needs to have self-defense. Her dad disregards her. Her dad ignores her. I think if you're saying
exactly
that, like you can't be smarter in the moment, it doesn't mean like, oh, you're better than if you have a plan. The reason that pulling on Michael's mask works is bullshit. It is risk. She does, oh yeah, I don't know what else to do. I barely can use my hands against this dude. I'll do the one thing. Doesn't make her smart. Exactly. She's lucky. She every single situation that she's in is through luck. The knitting needle is there by luck. The coat hanger is there by luck. She is not, I don't think planning makes you a worse character. I think that she is someone who fails upwards, and that's all that she ever does. I think Nancy approaches every situation like she thinks through it. I think that is her biggest strength, and that's the reason that she goes on and is a more strong character in the sequels, is the fact that she has to sit there and analyze and understand why Freddy is beatable, and I think she does that.
So the sequels don't matter, but it's funny that you call Lori lucky when she's just basically going around trying to find anything to stop Michael, and she does. But with Nancy, she has all of this time to try and figure out a plan, and she can save no one. She has like days where she's trying to, figure out how to stop Freddy. And Freddy kills Tina immediately, but then he doesn't. He just toys with Nancy the whole time. She is so lucky because she has all of this time to figure out stuff. And when Freddy is like trying to drag her into the bathtub, he could have killed her right there. He could have killed her at any point. And instead, he doesn't. And so she doesn't even have like a great villain to go up against like Lori does.
Time. All right. Oops, not lap. We wanted to stop. We are going to go to Spence first for their closing. Spence, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
The question asks, who is the best final girl? I think that there are a million other characters who would succeed in Lori's circumstances. I think there is nothing about her as a character, as a person, which fundamentally drives the narrative of Halloween. Literally, Loomis is the one who stops Michael. He still survives. He is the one who stops her. Lori is just an obstacle. Nancy, in the most you can in these fucking movies where people keep coming back, she stops Freddy. She learns his flaws and utilizes them against him. Her friends die, but that's not her fault. She does what she can and finally defeats him. I think Lori is a lucky character who has no real personality other than anti-sin, which just means she's fucking boring. I think everything with Nancy is she is proactive, she is thoughtful, she cares about her friends, and does everything possible. I don't think Lori is a well-written character. I don't think she's a thought-out character. She is simply a plot device used to have Michael kill around her. Nancy is the lead character in this movie, and it shows with how she is written.
Time. Okay. We are going to move over to Chadwick for his closing. 1 minute when you start.
Nancy gets outshined by Freddie. She doesn't really matter all that much. Lori doesn't have as much time as Nancy to run around reading books and setting traps. She has to act in the moment. Her friends are already dead and Michael's coming for her. None of her friends took the warning sign seriously, but Lori did. She's scared out of her mind and panics, but instead of allowing Michael to kill her and the kids, she springs into action, stabbing Michael multiple times and subduing him until help arrives. Her fear but determination to protect those she cares for is so relatable and admirable, showing true strength. The threat is so real and immediate that if we were in Lori's shoes, we might get ourselves or those kids killed. Lori doesn't have the luxury to turn her back on the villain for him to disappear. When she does, he sits back up and keeps coming for her. Lori is who we want to be in that situation, scared but prepared for any threat that comes our way. Always the Girl Scout, a goody two-shoes, but also a survivor in the face of pure terror, a true scream queen, the ultimate final girl.
Okay. So we are going to bring in the judges. Okay. I'm ready. How about you guys?
Yes.
It's fair.
Give me a second. All right.
We're gonna start with Mark.
Yeah. Yeah, this one's pretty close. It's funny because I think maybe seen both of these movies like once. Like, I'm just not a huge fan of either of them, really.
Played for a title.
I think I'm gonna give it to Chadwick just by an inch. I think I kind of like, at very least, like how he at least sets up Lori as somebody that's kind of, I kind of like how he almost kind of set. He doesn't use his word exactly. He almost kind of sets her up as like a John McClane, as somebody who's always trying to figure stuff out and always trying to kind of react with everything. And I do think like he had some at least pretty good hits, like at least on Nancy, in the sense that, you know, can't protect anybody, you know, that Freddie's more interesting than her, you know, things like that. Yeah, I think Spence, came pretty well prepared for this one, and it was pretty close. But I think I'd give it to Chadwick by a bit.
Thought we were brothers, Mark. Yeah, this was a good fight. I thought this was much better than the first fight, and I think that both came at it more or less the same, but a little bit different. I did also go with Chadwick. Here's why. I thought that Chadwick did a really good job of. I thought he was going to lean into the, well, she's the final girl that everyone like tries to be in the future movies, and that wasn't totally working for me. But then he really talked about the resourcefulness of Lori, that she cares about her friends. I'm glad he brought up the fact that in his closing that she saves the kids at the end. I thought that pretty much every time Spence threw something at Chadwick that was a negative or a shot against Lori, I thought Chadwick had a good way of moving around it and making it not a negative, but a positive for Lori. Yeah, she uses a coat hanger and a knitting needle to stab Michael because she's in the moment panicking and using what she can. Taking the mask off is smart because it distracts him. And then I thought that Spence did do a good job. I liked Spence's whole pitch of of Nancy being someone who plans, is able to defeat Freddie at the end of the movie and everything. But I thought Chadwick had a good argument against that. in kind of taking what Spence was saying of like, you're saying that, Lori's lucky, but Nancy gets really lucky too, XYZ. So I thought Chadwick did a really good job in this one. Spence did too, but I gave it to Chadwick. Brian, where are you going?
This one was an interesting, hard one to judge, and probably a hard one to argue too, because you have to ask yourself, what's the criteria for best final girls? Is it the best written? Is it who's the most successful? Like they're talking about who stopped them versus who didn't stop them, things like that. So you got to figure out what you want to judge on, and they each kind of took their own approach to it. I did vote for Chadwick as well.
Damn.
But again, this was super close, and I wasn't even sure where I was going to go for it all the way up to the end. I think that Spence's attack about how Loomis had to come in at the end and save it. That doesn't change the fact, in my opinion, that makes her still a final girl, so that wasn't really effective for me. As far as the rest of it, I mean, you guys kind of already covered the rest for the same reasons, but it just barely for Chadwick.
All right, so we are tied up 1-1. Your next question is coming in the category of DreamWorks. This was drafted by Spence. The question is, which DreamWorks character should have their own spin-off movie? Spence, you get to kick this one off. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
The How to Train Your Dragon universe, I think, there's a lot going on with it. I think there's a lot of opportunity to sort of explore the world. I think the best way to have an insight into that is Valka, Hiccup's mother. There's a big gap in time that we don't really know what's going on with her, where she is taken by a dragon while Hiccup's a very young kid. And then we don't really know about her for like 20 years. But as we understand her, she is literally training dragons, and she's going out and saving them, having her own little haven. And I think there's a lot of opportunities for adventure there. As we've seen with the whole trilogy, the way that you're able to see outside and see how people are harming dragons, how to stop that. There's this great sense of humanity and camaraderie that we can see. And I think there's a lot of opportunities to meet new characters who can enrich her as a character. I think that so much has changed between this like fearful woman who one dragon was nice to her and rescued her and took her somewhere, from how bad things were before. I want to see what that development looks like now.
Time. Okay. We are going to move over to Chadwick. Chadwick, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
Goldilocks from Puss in Boots, The Last Wish should get a spin-off movie. The Last Wish was such a surprise, and Goldilocks was a big reason for that. Her arc of realizing her found family in the bears was the true family she was looking for her whole life was emotional and beautiful. It was so fun to see Goldilocks and her bear family interact because they were given such interesting personalities, like being able to play the piano, bickering with each other, and being British criminals. Since The Last Wish was so great and Shrek 5 is in production, this would be the perfect time to make the Goldilocks spin-off movie. The nature of the Shrek franchise can give us a fun action adventure featuring fairy tale and nursery rhyme characters. Goldilocks would now be running Jack Horner's pie crime organization with her bear family, so we can have hijinks ensue with trying to bake pies that are too hot, too cold, and just right, and then figure out how they are going to handle the seedier side of the business. But I do imagine a lot of comedy, action, and at least one big heist. Give it the same innovative animation style of The Last Wish, and you have a hit that can enrich the franchise, Goldilocks, and our lives.
Time. All right. Both interesting pitches. I'm digging it. 5 minute freeform when one of you starts talking.
I just think that's so weird that you want to put bears in a food factory. The hair in all of those pies, they're going to have no customers. They're just eating fucking fleas and bear hair. That's disgusting. And I think it's really weird to structure. you want to structure the spinoff after the character has basically resolved their emotional arc. Her whole reason for being a character in it echoes Puss's of coming to terms with the emotion and the friends and family you have around you. She reached the end of her arc. There is nowhere for those characters to go. They're just happy, I guess. That doesn't create an interesting lead character. If you did before, there might be something there because there's so many adventures. Now she's just making pies. Unless you're fucking Sweeney Todd, I don't think that's interesting.
I don't think before would really work because we do get kind of the start of her big journey to find her family. But I think she's interesting after that. I mean, we see so many first movies where someone goes on an emotional journey, but then we continue with that character. You know, every franchise has something like that where you have sequels that, you know, now we're going to do this. So I think Goldilocks trying to find out what her new purpose in life, now that she has this family, she can go on adventures with them and have the same camaraderie that she has with them. But also, I think it's hilarious. I think you're adding to my argument talking about the hairs and the pies and stuff and how weird that would be and kind of like Sweeney Toddy. That sounds like a lot of fun. Like they'd have to learn how to put on hairnets and do all this stuff, and then, but the more interesting part would probably be like bringing in, other like fantasy characters and stuff like that to help. I thought of like Jack be nimble, Jack be quick, Jack is a thief. You can bring back the big bad wolf and you can have like, all these people going on these crime stuff. But it would really be focused on Goldilocks and building up her personality and seeing where she wants to go in life and, what is her next kind of goal. Is she going to stay a criminal or is she going to move on to something else?
I think that just the ending that on the question is weird because at the end of the day, you're basically forcing her down the criminality route of a character who was basically her only motivation for that was to find her old family. You are taking somebody who a lot of their character is basically reset at the end of the film. It was, I'm a thief who I'm only using these bears who think they're my family so I can get my real family, and I'm thieving to get to that end result. Most of that is gone. You are taking somebody who has no purpose beyond that film and then saying anything is possible. I don't think it's interesting. I don't think it's conducive to the argument. I think that you are undermining. You're basically saying, here's a character, do literally anything with it. And I don't think that's helpful when you're making a pitch like this.
Go ahead, sorry.
I think that Valka especially there is very interesting time where you have no idea what is going on except for the end result. You know how she gets there and that she has been jaded by humanity and seeing what can go on until that point. I think that we have seen how successful that the How to Train Your Dragon series was with Hiccup going on a similar journey, that I think you're putting Valka in a similar situation where having new dragons and having her work with her blue horned one is awesome. I think the dragon designs are very interesting. I think a lot of the ideas that you could have in a Goldilocks spin-off movie are kind of negated by the fact that the movie before it does a lot for the character. The future doesn't really have anything to offer.
This is exactly what happens with Goldilocks at the end, as she decides to take over that exact organization. Does she continue to go?
Clarification. I meant to put up, let your opponent talk. You guys still have 2 minutes. So
okay. Sorry.
Thank you. So that threw me off. Just because she might decide to go on the crime route still, that would be an interesting decision. That would be an interesting character path. I'd love to explore that. Or maybe she decides to go on a more righteous path. I don't know. I would love to find out. I think that'd be great. Just because I think Goldilocks is a brilliant character. She's so funny, voiced by Florence Pugh. I want to see more of that. Valka, on the other hand, I love Valka. I love How to Train Your Dragon. I think it's perfect. But I think what you're pitching is not the best kind of thing that we could get. Honestly, I don't want to see much more of How to Train Your Dragon anyways, because I think that trilogy ended perfectly. But if you look at a Valka prequel, you wouldn't get anything really great because it would be the same thing that we had from the original How to Train Your Dragon series is Valka training dragons. Great. That's exactly what I want to see. But if you look at a Valka prequel, I don't think it works because when Hiccup shows up and he's like, Burke has changed, she doesn't believe him. I don't think she thinks people can change. I think that she hasn't seen any human growth. So what am I going to see in this Valka movie? It's just her training dragons like, here, train the dragon. There you go. It's going to be the same thing we've seen before, and it's not going to be interesting because there's going to be no human growth. And she's only interesting when we finally meet her in 2, and then we see all that change, and then we get to experience her becoming a mother again. That's where she's interesting.
I think having Hiccup as the core point of, hey, people can change, she can be the antithesis. I think that is literally how you structure movies. I think having someone to maybe she can make these bonds and say, oh, hey, this cute explorer guy, maybe he can be cool. And then he turns on the dragons and that what sets her down the path. I think you are literally making my movie for me. Having someone who is an anti-Hiccup who then learns because of him is what makes that character great. I think that there's no movies where running a business or running food is cool. You're asking for Fast Food Nation with disgusting bear shit and pies. No one wants to see that from DreamWorks. I think that you are using these characters who are interesting in an action sense and locking them down in somewhere boring.
I don't think that serves Valka's character arc at all.
Time. We're going to go to Chadwick. This was Spence's category. So, Chadwick, you get to go first. You have 1 minute to close when you start talking.
I don't want to see asshole Valka or whatever the hell Spence is pitching. I don't think that's a good movie at all. I think mine is fun and great. Valka is a great character. How to Train Your Dragon is known for creating deep characters, but I think she's so well developed and serves her purpose in the main trilogy, a spinoff wouldn't work out, or a prequel. When we meet her in How to Train Your Dragon 2, she doesn't believe in human growth. We've already seen multiple movies of people training dragons. It would be and then she's already, she learns to be a mother, and she is reacclimated in Berk. I think that's where she's interesting, not anything else. There's nowhere else to go with her character. Even if you said it as a third movie, all the dragons are hidden and happy, so I don't want to see anything like that. I think people would be disappointed with that. With Goldilocks, we get a fresh new character voiced by Florence Pugh, who is a badass, fun, funny, and deep. People would love to see the movie that continues her story, to find out what her purpose is, but also to find out she operates a whole organization and what kind of shenanigans would she and her bears get into. I think the shenanigans that Spence laid out, I think, is really fun, and it perfectly fits the grossness of Shrek.
Time. All right, let's move over to Spence. Spence, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
In her dragon sanctuary, there are hundreds of dragons. Those are hundreds of stories that we can hear about Valka, how she is motivated to save these beautiful creatures and the bond that she makes with them, and how she learns to distrust humans. I think there's a lot of potential there that we see. The end of Puss in Boots: The Last Wish has Goldilocks just saying, yeah, I'll run a pie factory. There is no idea that she's continuing the crime business. The reason that Jack Horner did it was so he could get to the last wish, so he could collect these oddities. She has no interest in that now that she's found her family. That is written in the script. That is not present in the pitch that you are making. You are actively undermining her character growth at the end of the film. Either you are loyal to it and make a boring pie movie where you have a food inspector come in and be like, oh, this is gross, because it is, or you actively ignore the structure that you are given. There is literally 20 plus years between How to Train Your Dragon, Valka getting kidnapped, and 2 starting. There are opportunities there to follow. I think you are ignoring potential and ignoring the movie that you are spinning off from.
Time. Oh man, I had so much I wanted to say during that fight. Oh man,
That was awesome.
fucking Ratatouille. Okay, we can have rats.
Do you want a bear or a rat in your
We can
pie?
have rats. Fucking cooked French food, but God forbid a bear makes a fucking pie.
Their hands are too big; they can't hold it.
When you said I wanted so bad for Chadwick to say that, but he didn't, when you were like, we don't want to see a movie with animals cooking food. I'm like, what? Oh, that's so funny. All right. All right, Brian, you're starting.
I voted Chadwick again on this one. I feel like neither pitch blew me away, but it comes down to, because honestly, I'm not a big fan of Shrek and the Shrek movies. I love How to Train Your Dragon, so on the surface, Valka would be the one I might be more interested in seeing. But based on the pitches, I think that kind of seeing where the life of crime and everything goes from there. Goldilocks, that pitch actually sounded interesting to me. And in a pitch question, it really comes down to which story would you want to see. Valka, while an interesting character, I feel like I didn't get a real good sense of what that story would be. Even in Spence's closing, they said, there's all these dragons, there's hundreds of stories you could tell. What are they? See, I don't know what the story is specifically about. So this one I had to go with Chadwick.
All right, Mark.
When Brian first put out his answer, I made a face, mainly because I think he abandoned his board theme, which I was looking forward to the third one. But this is I liked. I honestly kind of like both of these bitches somewhat, or at the very least, like where it was taken. I think on its head, Chadwick's idea, like I didn't like, but he was able to defend it. And then Spence would kind of get into kind of making like an anti-hiccup movie, kind of how you build up Valka in the beginning. I did kind of like that. I think, though, I ultimately did go with Chadwick as well. Mainly because I feel like almost all of the a lot of the hits that Chadwick got from Spence, he was kind of able to just kind of either shake them off or kind of wiggle out of it or have like a good response. I kind of liked his response to like, we've already seen Goldilocks' arc. What would that be? Like, well, we've seen a lot of movies where, you know, the arc has been kind of capped off and like we kind of go with the story anyway, just kind of see where that goes. I don't know. We spent a lot of time with, you know, the bear shit and hair and the pie thing. And I'm thinking myself, oh no, that would be kind of funny. Like figuring out how to get all the bear hair out of the pies. Okay, I'd go for that.
Yeah. I also went with Chadwick. I thought Chadwick honestly kind of ran away with this. I think Valka is a great character. And I get why Spence would pick Valka. I think Chadwick very smartly pointed out why a Valka movie would not work. Was very articulate in the way that he painted that picture. And I don't think Spence was able to convince me why it would be interesting. Versus I thought Chadwick's pitch was very funny. And even throwing in the fact that like this is the grossness of that does fit within the world that this movie is set. I think that was interesting as well. I'm glad we didn't get too caught up on the cast of like, oh, Florence Pugh is big right now, Kate Blanchett's amazing. But I thought that Chadwick did a really, really great job of on this one. So I gave it to Chadwick. So that's another clean sweep. We've had 3 clean sweeps, and we're going into the final question. Spence does need to hit this in order to send it to the bonus. Your question is in the category of Oscars. This was drafted by Chadwick. Remember, the Oscars don't matter, guys. You said that earlier. But your question is, which 1990s Best Picture win is the most underrated? So Chadwick, because you drafted this, you get to go first. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
American Beauty definitely deserved to win Best Picture. It's filled with rich themes exploring identity, our roles in society, the artificiality of life, self-perception, and beauty. It shows us the dangers that come with society dictating how we live our lives, restricting our ability to be ourselves, and getting us to play a role that makes us hollow. It shows us that real beauty is not on the surface, but lies much deeper. Every character is well written and has a problem that relates to the main themes. It's fascinating to see how the characters deal with societal pressure and attempt to find themselves. Along with an excellent cast, screenplay, cinematography, editing, score, and director, American Beauty is an excellent film and, dare I say, one of the best ever made. As long as we live in a society that pressures us, the movie will be relevant and stand the test of time. Unfortunately, the discourse about this film isn't as positive as it should be. People call the film pretentious and dated without ever trying to engage with what the film has to say. I think the film's complex and mature themes are misunderstood, and controversy overshadows the film's merit. It's beautiful. And American.
Oh, that was really funny. And American. Oh man, who directed that movie? Wasn't it
Sam Mendes?
Sam Mendes. He's not American. What is an opening for Spence when you start?
Break down the question. What does underrated mean? People shit on it, and they shouldn't. Shakespeare in Love has gotten hatred as a movie and as a Best Picture winner. Now let's break that down. Why is it shitted on as a Best Picture winner? Because it beat Saving Private Ryan. There are no issues within the film that people are shitting on. They just don't like that it beat their dad's favorite movie. I think we need to give it some respect. What is Shakespeare in Love? It is a very well constructed, very well acted, very thoroughly researched rom-com. I think that we don't get enough of that as Best Picture winners. I think that rom-com is a severely overlooked and disrespected genre of film. Would that win Best Picture win? Or would that win Best Picture in a general year? Probably not, but it did. People don't give it respect as a film. I think it has a really brilliant screenplay. The Scene on the Boat is one of my favorite of all time. I think performances are great. Joseph Fiennes, who the fuck is he? I don't know, but he kills it as William Shakespeare. Gwyneth Paltrow deserved her Best Actress win. This is just a film that gets hated on for its existence as a Best Picture winner, not as a film itself.
I believe he's Ray Fiennes' brother. 1 minute, I believe so. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure.
5
5 minute freeform when one of you starts talking.
I mean, I do think rom-coms should get more respect. I agree, but the ones that are actually really, really great, not the ones that are just good, basically trying to do Romeo and Juliet again and again, and just basically try and say, hey, this is Romeo and Juliet, but it's different. But then it just does Romeo and Juliet again. It just tries to give us a happy ending. It's a crowd pleaser, and a lot of people like it. When you actually look at reviews for this movie, they're really good. People like this movie. Go figure. Yes, they don't like that it won Best Picture, or most people do, I would say, but it doesn't deserve Best Picture. You had so many other movies that year, including the ones that were nominated, that had so much more to say about real things that we actually care about, like World War II and the different nuances that come with those movies, like Saving Private Ryan, that definitely deserved that. It's one of the greatest war movies ever made, and it got overshadowed because known predator Harvey Weinstein decided that he wanted to come in and get his movie a Best Picture win. So yeah, it gets a lot of hate, deservedly so, but also it's just a good movie, and when people see that, they like that. But generally, it's underseen. And so I wouldn't say it's underrated. It's just underseen and overrated.
Let's talk about noted pedophiles and creeps, because the entire plot of American Beauty is, man, you know what's on my midlife crisis? Fucking a 16-year-old. That is the plot of the movie. And his punishment for it? His gay neighbor is like, oh, I can't be gay, and shoots him. It is aged like fucking milk. It is disrespectful and unaware of what it is trying to say. But even beyond that, let's go by critic reviews. People like Shakespeare in Love. Currently, as of today, American Beauty has a 4-star average on Letterboxd and is the 77th highest rated movie of all time on IMDb. No one is underrating it. People love this fucking movie. They shouldn't, and I fucking hate this movie, but it is still loved. I think underrated does not fit this. I just want to backtrack a little bit. Shakespeare in Love is not Romeo and Juliet. It is literally 12th Night. The entire idea of her cross-dressing as a man is stolen from 12th Night, and that is the structure of the film through the perspective of performing Romeo and Juliet. It is really smart in how it respects Shakespeare. I think that you're misunderstanding the point of the film.
Shit, so it rips off 2 Shakespeare plays. Thank you for that.
Adapting Shakespeare, that's terrible.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying ripping them off and just trying to pose as something new and awesome, and it's just not. And something that should be deserving of Best Picture, and it's just not, to be honest. But if you look at American Beauty, you talk about it aging. This thing should not be punished just because it has, mature themes in it. It's hard to watch sometimes, but you look at the relationship highlights the dangers. The relationship supports like a lot of the different characters' progressions. You talk about the gay neighbor. Yeah. He has so much built up anxiety and fear that, someone might find him out. And you can see how society has pushed that onto him. I think it's a very progressive movie, and how you look at, people who are closeted and can't come out for fear, and they will do anything to not get found out about that, once the controversy fades about Kevin Spacey and all that stuff, I think the movie just holds up so much better, because you can actually watch this and every single time and get more and more out of it for what it has to say. And that Benning is incredible in the movie, and everything that she has to do, where she has this facade that she has to present to the world, and instead you realize that really these people need to look inside themselves, because that's where the beauty lies, instead of all of the artificial stuff. The way that Sam Mendes helms this movie by putting deep metaphor every single where with the roses and stuff. It's just a really deep movie, whereas Shakespeare in Love is ripping off other movies, and it's very surface level.
I before I take over, I want to ask, so why is this underrated? What part of it is knocked down by society?
If you go to Google and you Google American Beauty, you're doing it right now, American Beauty review, you'll see like bad reviews. You'll see at least one article that talks just how bad the reviews is. And if you talk about yourself and a lot of other people who slam on the movie just like you did, they'll go, oh, this movie is terrible because it's controversial and it has mature themes in it. It's like, what movies don't have mature themes that you want to explore and you want to dive into and try to figure out how it, builds the movie up?
So I just Googled American Beauty review as a 4.5 average rating on Google, 87% of Rotten Tomatoes, and a 4 out of 5 by a popular review site.
I mean,
Common Sense Media,
you
whatever.
can look
But
at
you are,
if we're
what
gonna
you,
sit here
what
and do
you
this
gave
shit.
me, what you gave me is why is the movie underrated? Because it has very high reviews. Yes, I understand that. That does not mean it's underrated. And I will say, the American Beauty is not being self-aware about like, oh, it's complicated themes. Lester Burnham
Of course
is
it is.
rewarded. Angela wants to have sex with him. He says, no, I'm a better man. I won't do that. When he is
And then he
beating his
dies.
shit to a 16-year-old. That is the plot of the movie. It rewards him for being like, oh, I wanted you, but I won't.
It's not the whole plot of the movie. It informs the characters, and it is one of those things to where everything is building to that moment, but it's not the full plot of the movie. You have so many different characters and different things going on, like Jane being very self-conscious about her body, and then you have Angela who's very outward with her body, but then you realize that one's more deeper and one is more shallow, and you actually want to dive into these characters and try to find out what makes them tick. If you like I said, I want to go back and I want to look at Shakespeare in Love, 92% on Rotten Tomatoes. So you're doing the same exact thing where this is brilliant reviews, and then you're saying, oh, people shit on it. Okay, they do both.
Hey, whoa!
They do both.
over the limit. Shit, sorry. Spence, you have 1 minute to close when you start talking.
I think we're looking at both of these movies as films, as they are. I think American Beauty still has a lot of love and respect for what it is today. I don't think it's underrated. I think people like me, with my opinion, are a largely minority. We are fighting from the bottom and trying to get people to dislike it, but it doesn't work. People still love it and watch it to this day. I think Shakespeare in Love is never given a fair chance. People watch it and they go with a negative mindset. Oh, this beats Saving Private Ryan. It needs to be better than that, and it needs to succeed in that. If we are talking about it as a film, it is a really well-written rom-com. Like it blends Romeo and Juliet and Twelfth Night. It has this great narrative and idea about what women's place were as actors and even as people in the times of Shakespeare. It is about Viola's like breaking out from this royal class and femininity and her image as a woman. There is so much going on there that we don't even analyze it. We're about what's being progressive in times. American Beauty started like shit and no one called it out, and it is finally getting to that point. But people still love it. People don't give Shakespeare in Love the time it deserves, and that's why it is underrated.
Time. Okay, and we're going to move over to Chadwick. Mr. Webb, you now have 1 minute when you start talking.
Yeah, it's weird. Spence is trying to say that people don't shit on American Beauty, and then they go on to say that people are starting to shit a lot on American Beauty. So there you go. They both have high reviews. They're Best Picture winners. Go figure. Saving Private Ryan, The Thin Red Line, Life is Beautiful, The Truman Show, and Rushmore, all movies that would have been worthy winners over Shakespeare in Love. Shakespeare had to have known sexual predator Harvey Weinstein, its producer and father, schmooze and strong-arm the Academy in a real sleazy way for it to win Best Picture. That's because there's nothing special about it. I mean, it's well made, but it's a low bar for Best Picture. It should be great, and yet it's a fine Romeo and Juliet adaptation. They call American Beauty pretentious, but give me a break. Look at Shakespeare in Love, which is a very self-important movie with nothing really important to say. I think a lot of the critics of Shakespeare hasn't actually seen it, making it underseen and not underrated. But I'm arguing it's overrated due to its Best Picture win and highly positive reception nearly everywhere you look. People tend to enjoy it even if they don't like the Best Picture win. American Beauty's reception isn't nearly as positive as it should be. It requires thought, but it's one that is rewarding with every watch, unlike Shakespeare in Love, which is very surface level.
Time. Okay. I'm gonna bring in the Judgeritos.
Sorry. I'm done.
Were you yelling and your wife was upset?
Yeah, she's like, there's a baby in here.
Yeah,
There's a baby in here.
That's their brother.
That's what talking to me does to you. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I feel it. I feel you.
Try not to go to the blind round, but we'll see.
You know.
Okay. You guys ready?
Just a second. I know I'm marked to be disappointed with my board font.
It's fair. Yeah, let's see what we'll see what you got on this time. Great match overall. Competitors, fantastic stuff. Really, really good stuff. You know, like meant it when I said that you guys are both very good at this. And so I'm really happy with the way the match turned out. You both played fantastic. I went with Spence. I think that talking underrated, Spence convinced me that everyone, whether the reviews for Shakespeare in Love are good or not, everyone goes into that film saying, this is the one that beat Saving Private Ryan. How can it be better? And like, it has to live up to this standard that it shouldn't have to. And that people don't look at it the way they should, which is as an excellent rom-com that does Shakespeare very well with fantastic performances and is written really great. Thought Chadwick did a great job of American Beauty. I've seen both of these movies one time, so I don't remember too much about them, but I thought Spence's angle of like, yeah, there's a very few minority of people that don't like the movie, but on the whole, people really, really like it. That worked for me. But again, I thought Chadwick did a good job of building up and telling me why American Beauty is underrated. I thought Spence just did a better job of making their movie more underrated. So, Brian, are we moving to a... Well, you don't get to tell me. Well, you might tell me if we're going to a bonus round or not. Hey, Brian, tell me who you voted for.
Well, first, I thought it was an interesting approach for Chadwick in the debate, and then again in his closing to kind of attack the Harvey Weinstein of it all, and then say how that, he was like this slimy person. And then when it came to his movie, talk about, well, once people forget about the Kevin Spacey thing, it'll be okay. That was a little weird to try and play one up. And
that. That's fair.
I honestly thought those two things offset each other. It's like, I judge the movie by the movie. You might not like the people, but the work is the work, right? So those kind of things offset for me. What came down for me is when I'm looking at an overrated movie in this category, we're talking about the Oscars. So I think about it in the context of that year and how it was perceived in that year it came out. And for me, kind of the tiebreaker for me, because it was close, was the same thing that Tim said, where it's like, well, because Adelaide covered it in their argument, in that, people underrate this because it's being constantly compared to Saving Private Ryan, and why did this beat Saving Private Ryan, and all these things. And because of that, they have a lesser opinion of it based on things that aren't not the movie's fault. So I did vote for Adelaide Spence.
Oh my God.
That's fucking awesome.
Whoa, holy shit. Some Raiders of the Lost Ark shit. So Mark, your vote doesn't count. Where would you have gone and why?
I mean, why ruin the trend?
Wow.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, you guys kind of pointed out as much. I feel like as far as kind of laying out underrated, I think Adelaide did the better job. Because no matter, I think what we throw at Shakespeare in Love, the narrative always to Shakespeare in Love is that it's the movie that beat Saving Private Ryan. And I'm not really sure like that point was ever really attacked in the best way. So yeah, moving Spence.
All right, that means we are all tied up and we are moving on to the bonus round. So here's how this is going to work. I have randomized what side of Fanzone this is going to come from. It's either going to come from Fandom or Mayzone. The category then, I randomized the category from the remaining categories that weren't drafted in the main round. So then I have a question for that. You are each going to get 45 seconds and then 30 seconds. Whoever says their answer first will be going first. Any questions about how this is going to go? Okay, I'm going to say the question once, and then I'm going to repeat it. Once I've repeated it, you can then answer the question. All clear?
Sorry. What's the category again?
I haven't said it yet.
Oh, okay.
So, the side of Fanzone that this is coming from is Fandom.
Okay.
And the category is Star Wars. The question is, who is the best character in a Disney-era Star Wars film? Again, who is the best character in a Disney-era Star Wars film?
Disney era Star Wars. I'll just go. I'll go Rey.
Okay.
Just to clarify, it's any character in them, right? It's not
Correct.
originator. Okay.
But then you have to support, if it's an existing character pre, you have to use it supporting the movies in the Disney era.
I'll go Kylo Ren.
Okay. Rey versus Kylo Ren is what we have going on. I'm going to stay on screen for this. Chadwick answered first, so he'll be going first. Chadwick, you get 45 seconds when you start talking.
Star Wars is known for having a lot of great protagonists. I think Rey is one of the best. I love to see like the journey that she goes on, to see how strong, like, you know, a strong female can be. It's like the first, like, you know, Star Wars, like, you know, woman that we get to see, you know, grow and actually use the Force in very interesting ways. And I love like when she, you know, goes into the scene and, you know, talks, you know, and wields the lightsaber for the first time. It's so inspirational. And then the relationship that she actually has with Kylo Ren shows that she can go and actually like talk to the dark side a little bit, and like how that goes. It's actually really interesting. But stay to the light and be such a great protector and such a great voice for the Jedi. And I think she's the best character.
Time. Spence, 45 seconds.
Kylo Ren is so cool because the whole point of his character is a metatextual perspective on Star Wars fans. They're so protective of the original series, and then he's like, I'm going to take it and utilize it and lean exactly into the issue with Darth Vader. And the reason that he's so interesting is because of exactly that. He is utilizing that and being a villain, and then suddenly, through the rest of the fucking films, the point of him as a villain is him being gray, just like you have with Rey, but he follows through. It's not just, am I dark? Oh, no, I'm actually good. He fully flips. He is fucking space Nazi, space Hitler, and says, no, I am better than that, and turns and fights with Rey to defeat Palpatine. He has a full arc that is not ruined by the Rise of Skywalker. He has a potential, and then like his actual character design is awesome. His lightsaber is the coolest in the whole franchise. I think he's there for both, like, he's written well, he's interesting, he's cool, everything you want from a character.
Time. Chadwick, 30 seconds when you start talking.
I love Kylo Ren at the start, but then he like got too like emo, and then he got too, into the thing where I feel like the series just ruined him, to be honest. Like, he was so cool, and then he had this whole arc where he ended up, kissing Rey and just doing all this stuff that just like didn't really seem like it was his character. I feel like if you had that arc be actually better handled, then it could have been really cool. But I think Rey is handled very well throughout the entire series as the heroine. Like, everything hinges on her being great.
Time. All right. Spence, 30 seconds.
Rey's not the first one to use the Force. Leia said to be Force sensitive. It doesn't matter if she kissed him. He kissed her. Both fucking ways. They kissed each other. That's a negated point. I think they're saying, oh, he's an emo character. That's ignoring the point of it. Rey is written at the start of being anybody can be a Jedi, and that's the strength of her being a woman narrative, that anybody could do this, and then fucking Rise of Skywalker actively undermines it and says she's a Palpatine. That ignores the point of it. Kylo Ren is always written to be consistently the same character about destroying the past and taking advantage of it, and that's what he does through the whole 3 films.
Time. Okay. I'm going to take you guys out. We're going to bring in the judges. Pick you guys we can. Yada, yada, yada. Okay. Well.
So sweaty.
I dropped my computer. All right. Yeah, I'm ready. Mark, you are kicking this one off.
Sometimes I can do that, but I'll let you guys have suspense. Suspense. I actually did go with Spence on this one. Didn't realize I was gonna do the same sounding thing as. I feel like just throughout, I think Spence did a much better job of building up Kylo Ren. Talk about what made him cool. He had kind of a more realized arc. I think just in terms of kind of actually building up their character, I think Spence did a better job. I also felt like, kind of uses time just a bit more wisely here. I think I got an idea of what kind of what makes Ray good from Chadwick, but I don't think I got as much as I did from Spence.
Yeah, this was tough for me. Because I think they both, I disagree with Mark a little bit. I think they both did a good job of building up their characters in a strong way. Spence talked a lot about like visually what makes Kylo Ren cool. Also talked about how he's the thing that the fan, like, fuck off with that shit. Like, that was stupid. I hate that so much. Spence also attacked the arc of Rey in Rise of Skywalker. And was kind of pointing out how Kylo's arc makes sense and is pretty cool, but I thought that Chadwick did a good job of talking about Rey being force sensitive, the cool moments, grabbing the lightsaber in The Force Awakens, and their full arc. So this was tough. I ultimately went with Adelaide. I do think it was close, but I think they gave me, even though I did not like their point about the fan thing, I think they gave me just a little bit, a tiny sliver more on the pro Kylo Ren and just a tiny sliver more on the anti-Rey. I thought Chadwick did a really good job. I think Spence, just like Mark said, used their time just a bit more effectively. And something that's really tough in the speed round is gathering those thoughts and using them effectively. And I think Chadwick stumbled a couple like quick moments where he just wasn't able to capitalize on the time. So it was tough because I do think Chadwick played fantastic tonight, but I gave it to Spence. Brian, your vote does not count. Where would you have gone and why?
I also went Spence in that one. I feel like, first of all, I liked when at the end of Chadwick's argument, how he was talking about the whole kiss at the end of Rise of Skywalker and how awful that was. And Spence wisely pointed out, he was a part of that too, or she was a part of that too. So it's like that kind of cancel each other out. That's not an issue. While I disagree with Spence about Rise of Skywalker ruining what Last Jedi set up, because I think Last Jedi is the one that fucked it up, and Rise of Skywalker tried to get back on track, and it was too destroyed by then. The fact is, Rey's arc was kind of gone one way and then retconned and stuff, whereas Kylo Ren had a more consistent arc to his character and more fully realized.
No one wanted to pick Babu Frick. And your winner is Adelaide Spence. We're going to go into post-match interviews real quick. We're going to talk to Chadwick first. Chadwick, unfortunately, not your day today, but I think this is probably the best match we've seen you play in Fanzone debate yet. I thought you played really, really great. I want to get you back in early next season because I think you deserve it. I think I really enjoy having you here. What are your thoughts right away after the match?
Yeah, really great. It didn't start off so great. I think the questions I was most worried about with the Oscars and the musical one, because I know Spence is really good at musical stuff, are the ones that I got swept on. But then I was happy that I got the sweep in horror, got the sweep in DreamWorks. I know Spence likes to pick Valka a lot in their debates, so I was pretty prepared with trying to figure out like what's not great about like a Valka prequel and stuff. So I'm glad I got to capitalize on that, and it was just so neat to see sweeps every single question. Is like just actually really kind of fun. And then I just got a little bit unlucky at the end there where I like Star Wars, but I think Spence is probably a bigger fan than I am. If it was like Harry Potter or something like that, I think I could probably have did something more, definitely. But with this, haven't seen The Rise of Skywalker in a very long time, so I was just trying to find a good way to counter. And then it's like when you're trying to pick, you're like, what do I pick? And then like, oh, I like Rey. and then they picked Kylo, and then I'm like, shit, this is gonna be close. And then it wasn't close. Well, I guess it was a little bit, but one of those things where just prior knowledge, like my knowledge of like other franchises and stuff, like especially with the horror and whatnot, has really come to help me at times. And my lack of knowledge can also hurt me. So there you go. But I love playing, and I'll be happily glad to come back soon.
Yeah, Chadwick, I think you played fantastic tonight. Thanks for being here. We'll see you in the next one as we bring in the winner tonight, Adelaide Spence. Adelaide, you seemed surprised at the end there. What are your thoughts post-match here?
I'm mostly surprised. I don't think any match has ever had only clean sweeps like that, other than like knockouts. But that's just like 5 questions, only clean sweeps is insane. I will say I should have prepared more. Especially that DreamWorks question. I was like, man, Chadwick's doing a prequel. That's fucking weird. Nope, I'm just dumb and didn't think through things. I could have prepped more, but I think I am someone who, like, when my back's against a wall, I think I can fight back pretty well. I do enjoy the speed round. I did almost shout Kylo Ren like immediately just to make sure he didn't take it because I didn't know how to argue against him very well. But yeah, I was scared there for a minute because I felt real good about horror icons, and he rocked my shit. So I need to be more prepared for all options whenever I come back.
Yeah, no, Spence, we'll definitely have you back next season. Who do you want to play when you come back? Because this is your last match of this season, but with a win on your record, you're moving up. Where are you kind of thinking next year you want to play?
My goal, I don't know if it'll be in a tournament or if it'll just be one of us gets good, one of us gets shit. I need Jack Pinchuk's head on a fucking platter. I'm going to own his ass immediately.
Couldn't agree more.
Thank you.
I hate him with my entire being. So, Spence, I will do everything in my power to make it happen. I can't make any promises, but I'll try my best.
Once I start winning matches, then we can talk about it.
I was about to say, yeah. I mean, he is, let's see here. He is 4-4. You're 2-4. So it's possible if he starts to lose and you win, it could happen. It could happen.
We'll play bar again. Jackie Robinson too. Let's run it back.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Congrats.
Oh, I'm busy that night. Sorry.
Yeah, my God. Mark, let's get final thoughts from you.
Yeah, this is interesting. I think both players certainly brought it. Definitely it was a fun match. Spence definitely can play and didn't get down whenever they were down 2-1, able to fight there to get those 2 points. They were able to win it. So it wasn't bad.
Yeah, and Brian, your final thoughts.
This is what I like to see. I think both of them have improved over their previous performances and kind of are learning from each match they do, getting better and better. I know Chadwick specifically has worried in the past about his openings and closing, getting the timing right, so he's not like getting cut off or talking at past when you cut him off. And I thought that went very well. And Spence, we'll see where they go from here.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you to Spence and Chadwick for playing. Thank you to Mark and Brian for judging. Thank you to Kirk and Cody behind the scenes for helping run the gig. I have been Tim. We'll see you guys next time with another great match. Until then, have a great night. We'll see you next time.
There we go. Thank you very much. Please come again. We have a lot more groceries.